Good morning, sweet ladies. Thank you for joining us in Far Above Rubies today. I'm so very glad that each of you are here. This month we are walking through 4 topical studies, and right now we are focused on the armor of God. Today we are taking a look at the sword of the Spirit, and your base passage is going to be Ephesians chapter 6, verses 10 through 18. We're going to read Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12 together right now. It says, "For we are not fighting against flesh and blood enemies, but against evil rulers and authorities of the unseen world, against mighty powers in this dark world, and against evil spirits in the heavenly places." This passage goes on, Paul tells us that we need to take the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, as our weapon against these unseen rulers of dark places, against these spiritual enemies. Now, if you are a very practical, left brain type of person, a see it to believe it person, you might struggle with acknowledging that you do face spiritual battles. But I can promise you, if you are a born again child of God, you face spiritual battles. And so if you fall into that category, I want to encourage you to pray to the Lord and ask Him to help your eyes to be opened to the things that come at your life by means of spiritual warfare. The sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, is something we are implored here to take in our hands and to use in battle. Hebrews chapter 4 and 12 tells us that the word of God is alive and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword. It's telling us that there's no greater weapon you could possibly have at your disposal to fight those things that spiritually come into your life as an attack than the word of God. What does that look like? What does that look like? Jesus, when he's standing in the wilderness, having been fasting for 40 days and 40 nights, the devil comes to him and tries to tempt him to bow to the devil, to say that the devil has power, to say that the devil is sovereign in this world, and I will give you all these things that the devil tells Jesus if you'll just bow to me, if you'll just acknowledge that I am great and powerful. And Jesus combats him, not by some supernatural twitch of his nose, but instead Jesus comes at him with the word of God. Jesus combats the enemy with the word of God. And if it is good enough for Jesus, it was good enough for me. That's our spiritual weapon, is the word of God. At the mention of the word of God, the enemy, after a couple of times of having the word thrown at him, turns around and walks away. He says, nope, I can't compete with that. He cannot compete with the truth of the word of God. So are you getting pummeled lately? Are you getting pummeled spiritually? How much word of God is in your arsenal? How much word of God is stored up in your heart or in your mind? There is a reason that 365 days a year you can come into this group and find us diving deeper and deeper into the word of God. You can find us pouring it into our hearts and pouring it into our lives and pouring it into our homes, pouring it into our relationships. You can find it here every day of the year because we understand that the word of God is our spiritual weapon. The word of God is what we use to overcome, is what we use to fight those things that come at our lives in the spirit realm. How well equipped are you for battle? How well equipped are you for battle? Would you set any soldier in the middle of enemy territory with no weapon? Would you take somebody that you loved and set them down in the middle of a battle with no weapon or ill-equipped? Everyone else around them has machine guns and you've dropped them there with a knife. Would you set them down there ill-equipped? You don't need to be ill-equipped in your battle in the spiritual world. You need to make sure that you're getting as much word of God into you as you can, so that when the enemy comes in like a flood, what comes out of you is as natural as the air that you breathe. The word of God begins to pour out of you. That word becomes a lamp to your feet and a light to your path. It becomes your sword in your right hand. It becomes the shield that you need, the faith that you need, the banner that is raised up against the enemy. You need to have so much word going into you that it just naturally pours out of you. Do this with your kids. Help them. Help your children to have the word of God hidden away in their hearts. They are not too young. We go over a few very simple scriptures with our son every night, and our daughter, she's a little too young to understand what's going on, but we're making sure there's a foundation. We're making sure that the word of God is in him, so that the word of God will begin to come out of him, so that he is equipped, so that we are all equipped in this life with the word of God. How much word is in your heart? We don't need secret meanings through the passage to be well equipped. We don't need textbooks or commentaries or education that is 25 years long in order to be able to wield the Word of God in the Spirit. All we need is the pure, unadulterated Word of God. All we need is the Word of God that is not twisted and contorted to fit a generation. All we need is the Word of God that is not fitting into our mold, but that we are fitting into the mold of the Word of God. That's what we need. That's what we need to be well equipped to fight spiritual battles. We need the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. For we are not fighting against flesh and blood enemies, but against evil rulers and authorities of the unseen world, against mighty powers in this dark world, and against evil spirits in heavenly places. Get yourself a war room. Get yourself a place where you get alone with God. Get yourself a place where you can write scriptures down and put them on your wall or on your mirror or in your dash of your car. Put it on the screen of your phone. Let the Word of God permeate everything that you do in this life. Put it on paintings and pictures on your walls in your home, in your children's bedrooms. Let it be what your children hear you speak before they go to bed at night. Let it be what they hear you speak in the daytime when you pray. Let the Word of God that is alive and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword be your weapon when spiritual attack comes your way. Don't wait until spiritual attack comes to make sure you are well equipped. Equip yourself now. Go and read Ephesians chapter 6, verses 10 through 18. Continue to dive in to the armor of God with us. You have two incredible guest speakers coming to you the next 2 days that are continuing this look at the armor of God. Make sure that you are tuning in. Don't miss out on what they have to say. You don't want to miss one step of this study, okay? Go find some friends to invite to join us here in this group so that they may be well equipped in this life with the Word of God. And if no one has told you lately, you are loved and you are cherished and you are valuable. You have beautiful and tremendous worth, my friend, and that worth is far above rubies. Thanks for being here today, guys. I'll see you again on Sunday. God bless you.